everyone. I am here with Connie Thackaberry. I'm Sasha Thackaberry-Voinovich, and yes, we are related. And we are here to talk about culture and how to create positive team culture. This is one of the things that's actually, easy to say, hard to do. Has to be intentional, requires a lot of effort, and actually continual effort. It's not a set it and forget it like a rotisserie chicken. It's not a once and done. You have to continually foster it. So I am going to throw it to Connie, and I'm going to ask a little bit about, if you can just tell us a little bit about where you work now, generally speaking, and why positive culture has been important to you in this position or in previous positions.
Thank you so much, Sasha. So I work in a training and development role, and I work at a large law firm. And I have worked for most of my career in a legal environment. And so I'm very comfortable in that environment. It is, compared to some other industries, the legal industry and professional services firms are usually known as kind of a little bit more conservative on the culture side, but we still really value positive culture. One of the things I love about the firm where I work right now is an inclusivity aspect in terms of being really transparent and really good at communicating about what we're doing. So one of the things I think is the most important is understanding like your core values. So I had a team where I did exercises. I'm sure you've done this before, Sasha, where you've done exercises around team values. And you can really easily find online like lists of 15, 20, 30 values. And you sit your team down together and you ask them to first choose like 10 of the most important values to them as a team. And then gradually they have to narrow it down to maybe only 3 or 5. So it requires a lot of discussion amongst the group. Like, no, I think this value is more important. No, I think this value is more important. But kind of coming down to like a core set of values for the team can really help to, I think, promote that kind of feeling of togetherness and positivity. Like we're all moving in the same direction, which is really crucial because on an everyday basis, when we're just all doing our regular work, probably not quite as important. When it comes to crunch time, to deadlines, to high stakes crisis moments, having the same set of values to guide us can be extremely important. The other thing I mentioned earlier about transparency and communication. So if you're going to make a change in something for your team or your company, being very transparent about that change, having open communication, having an opportunity for people to ask questions about why are we changing this? Why are we doing this differently? And sometimes you can't give every specific away about a project. Sometimes there's some things that need to be helped with. But as transparent as you can be in the moment really allows your team, I think, as individuals and as team members to build confidence in the company they're working for. And that creates like that more positive environment for working in.
Yeah, 100%. I have worked in environments where transparency has been more valued and environments where transparency has been less valued. And definitely you get greater commitment the more I think you can be transparent and honest. And that's not to say that it works seamlessly, but it is something that people value. And I love that affiliation exercise that you did. That's something that I've done before with teams. That's really valuable. I've also seen it where you have a company culture statement or you have like official company values, and they seem to really just be posted on a website somewhere. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but how do you, and I know you've managed really large teams previously as well in other positions, how do you make that culture be something that's lived every day and not something that is a statement on a website?
So along the lines of the values activity, I've actually done with teams a mission activity. So, just like a nonprofit or a company has a mission statement, asking a team to come up with their own mission statement. Once you get it to a good sentence or two, you have to really work with the language a bit. But having it you can have it posted somewhere where, if you guys are in the same office, or if you're in a virtual office, you could have, a banner or something that kind of reminds us every day of what our mission is. It's also a great way to incorporate discussions when you're having a team meeting or something. Hey, we just had that discussion about values, and, today maybe Sasha is going to talk about, this specific value and what it means to them. It's a great way to kind of like keep incorporating those things with your team. The other thing I think is really important is incorporating like a social component, which can be challenging when we're working virtually, right? We can't all necessarily like sit down for dinner together if we're in all different locations.
Right.
But I think having a way to celebrate important moments like a birthday or a work anniversary, or even those moments outside. I know some places will celebrate, like if your grandkid wins an award, they'll put it in the newsletter or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is always fun, because then, the next time you see that person, you can be like, hey, I saw this, great news for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you done any unique things in terms of like bringing together people virtually for like a social connection?
Yeah, so actually relatively recently, at the company I ran before this, one of the things we really needed to do was form a cohesive identity as a group around some business needs that we had. And so what I did was I created, and the team entirely distributed, with a physical office as well, but most of the team worked remotely. And what I did was set up a book group. So we said we picked a book that was around sort of the problem that we were looking to solve, which was increased business, I would say precision, and the use of more sort of quality processes. And so we picked the Checklist Manifesto. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's very good. There's a lot of like sort of medical stories in it, but it can be really you can extrapolate to any industry from it. And so we did something where we had small groups. So we let people self-organize, and they each had to pick their own leader who was responsible for meeting with them and making sure that everybody was like on track, and they discussed it. And then every 2 weeks we would come together as a full team, and there would be specific discussion questions, and everybody expensed their lunch. So even though we couldn't eat in the same area, everybody had to go out, and we would talk about like, oh, so-and-so went to Chipotle, or so-and-so went to the local Greek place. And so there was, some of that banter at the beginning, but it really could have gone one of two ways. I was not sure it was going to work. But it ended up really working. And I thought that was, even though we can't break bread together, we can all at least break bread at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. One that I have not personally done, but a colleague of mine did with their team, was they had shipped to everyone's location a little tiny like pot with soil and seeds. And I think it was to grow sunflowers. And
I love
so
it.
they had the individuals plant them. And then I think every week or every other week when they had a team meeting, you had to like put a picture of, me, I would have like the dead plant, but apparently people really got into it and were trying to like maximize the amount of sun on their plant. And then they would send pictures of like how big their plant had gotten, So it was a great way to kind of encourage the team, but have like a really positive moment together, but also a little bit of like team rivalry never hurts, kind of people were like, oh, my sunflower is this big,
Yes, I love it. I love it. We did AI generated holiday images. So people had to bring AI. There was like a general, I think it was like something like related to space travel and the holidays. And you had to go and bring your AI generated images, and it was hysterical.
Oh, I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. So for people who are managers, any sort of tips or tricks for how to reinforce culture, or any warnings like do not do this if you want a good culture?
I think the transparency would be my like, do not lack transparency as an organization or a leader, if you aren't transparent about what you're doing and why, it will definitely backfire with you leading your team, because they just want an open communication. In terms of, kind of continuing to have that positive atmosphere, I think so many of the things that we talked about, but one thing I don't think either of us touched on is the opportunity to do maybe volunteer or service work together. So I worked at a variety of firms where there was either an opportunity for an in-person service project, like everyone goes to the local food bank and volunteers together on an afternoon or an evening. And if your work has like a time off for volunteering policy, that might even come into play. But the other thing is there are so many things that you can do if you're not all in the same location, like, hey, everyone's going to contribute to the backpack back to school campaign in their community, because usually most communities have a similar type of thing like that. And I think that can really be an opportunity for great team building, but also there's like the social connection, and also there is a wonderful feeling of being in a way that you can give back to your community, kind of in the larger sense. Sometimes we get so focused on work and what is right in front of us. And yes, we have to hit deadlines, we have to accomplish goals, we have to do all those things. But sometimes like having a little bit of perspective of the outside is important as well.
That's a really great point. That's a really great point. I feel like I should have thought of that. So great advice there. Yeah, taking us out of ourselves is super important. Well, thank you for your time today. I think it is fantastic. There's obviously all sorts of resources out on the interwebs for this sort of thing. And also AI, by the way, pretty much all of the big AI tools that you can talk to will give you some great suggestions for how to build and reinforce positive team culture. Anything from doing virtual coloring contests to, in-person culture awards. There's a lot of options there. So thank you for your time, and I am sure our listeners will have benefited from this.
Thank you.